Today, the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, testified, and he did his damnedest to say as little as possible. And along the way, he crafted this very interesting BS legal argument for why he didn't need to answer their questions, while at the same time not asserting or having Donald Trump assert executive privilege. And so let's look at this. Happened over and over and over throughout the testimony, but we're gonna start off with Sessions talking with Angus King.
What is the basis of your refusal to answer these questions?
Senator Kaine, the president has a constitutional...
I understand that, but the president hasn't asserted it.
Well,
you said you don't have the power to assert the power of executive privilege, so what is the legal basis for your refusal to answer these questions?
I am protecting the right of the president to assert it if he chooses, and there may be other privileges that could apply in this circumstance.
So, I mean, it's both infuriating and also a little funny. So he's saying, okay, you think we have to actually assert executive privilege to not answer your questions, but I'm just protecting his right to someday ever assert it. Because we're led to believe that Donald Trump didn't know that Jeff Sessions would be testifying today and didn't know that he could assert executive privilege if he wanted to. Is that what is actually going on at the White House? I don't think that's what's going on.
Well, no, he doesn't. Again, before they even came, they were preparing for this. And we'll get to later with what else they were preparing to answer or not answer as things are going. But Kellyanne Conway was, before he even came on, said Sessions is willing to cooperate and share what he knows. So, of course, what are you gonna share what you don't know? So in other words, we're gonna try and cover up as much as possible, say what we can say and not say, and also what we choose to say, and then cover it up with this guise of the reasons why we can't say it. Now, there was reasons behind this whole testimony in the first place, this hearing being called. Some of the things that that former FBI Director James Comey said about his worries and issues with Jeff Sessions' recusal from the Russia investigation. Also, then, if he's recused from the Russia investigation, how much of a hand he had in the firing of James Comey, because as the president said specifically, he was fired because of the Russian investigation. Then he wasn't, and then he was before he was, but then after he was, and then also his meetings with different Russians and Kislyak in particular. So with all these things is what he had to answer. Just to give you some more specifics about what he wasn't answering about.
Yeah.
So as we go through all this, just remember, there's lots of angles. And last week, I believe it was, when Senator Kamala Harris was asking about his angles and his potential allowance of letting the Russian investigation go. That's the reason why this is all culminated to where we are.
Yeah, and look, we're gonna touch, as Jared said, on a number of different angles on this. I wish that we had more that we could reveal, but when you combine the fact that he apparently doesn't remember anything about his life with the few things that he theoretically does remember, he's saying he doesn't have to talk about, you get almost no information. And I want you to consider what it would be like if everyone testifying before Congress or for perhaps a special counsel used this same argument, that we don't have to assert executive privilege because someday perhaps the president might want to, which is cool because then you get all of the benefits of exerting executive privilege or asserting it without having the obvious suspicious nature of that. Now, I don't think it's gonna work. I think that in this case, it's very obvious that it's weird that he refuses to reveal anything about his conversations with Donald Trump on important issues, like whether he actually ever talked about the Russia investigation, whether he talked about wanting to shut down the investigation, put pressure on James Comey, all of these incredibly relevant questions. I would say the reasons that Sessions was brought in the first place. He can't talk about any of that because someday, theoretically, Donald Trump might want to use executive privilege. That is absolute BS. None of the senators were buying it. Some try to distract from it. And I looked at the media coverage of this afterward, and interestingly, Fox News, Breitbart, no mention of this weird legal strategy in their coverage of it. But you need to know going into our coverage that that's the main impediment to us knowing more about what's actually going on, is that they don't want to reveal anything, but they also know how bad it'll look if they choose not to under their actual constitutional abilities.
So before we go into more of these, I did see, before we really got to cutting, I did see his opening statement. Jeff Sessions did, at least there was one thing that stuck out to me. He admitted that he was in a way involved with the recommendation to fire James Comey. And in saying that, he said, yeah, I admitted that I was part of it, but just because I recused myself from a Russian investigation because I was part of the campaign apparatus it doesn't mean that I'm not allowed to have input on the FBI director, because there's tons of investigations, there's tons of work that's going on. So at least he admitted that he had a part in that, but then he had a justification for why he had a part in that.
Which is BS, yeah.
But yeah, because then now they'll say that it had nothing to really do with that, it had to do with other things.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue of whether Jeff Sessions' recusal from the Russia investigation actually is worth a damn was a big part of at least the first half of the testimony today. Now, he has a great quote, and we're gonna show you the video. So this is video 11, where he attempts to distract, to start up this weird little emotional tangent, to get you to forget what the actual question is. So we're gonna play this video, and then we're gonna break it down.
Respectfully, you're not answering the question.
Well, what is the question?
The question is, Mr. Comey said that there were matters with respect to the recusal that were problematic, and he couldn't talk about them. What are they?
Why don't you tell me? There are none, Senator Wyden. There are none. I can tell you that for absolute.
I can tell you that. And he also went on to say this eventually: I recused myself from any investigation into the campaign for president, but I did not recuse myself from defending my honor against scurrilous and false allegations. Well, that's good. No one's accusing you of that. That doesn't make any sense, and I have no idea what you're talking about. What they're accusing you of is something very simple. It's you said you would not be involved in any matters having to do with the Russia investigation. Then you're involved in the signed letter that recommended that James Comey gets fired. So as JR pointed out, his defense of that is saying that I didn't recuse myself from everything having to do with the head of the FBI, which is true. But you know damn well that this situation where you have Donald Trump saying that what was on his mind, his rationale for firing him, was that the Russia investigation is a hoax and it needs to be shut down. The idea that you didn't know about that you don't know that that's the principal thing that James Comey is working on at that particular moment. We know from news reports at the time that he had just requested additional resources for that investigation. He's fired inside of 48 hours of that request. You might have some sort of case that this doesn't violate your recusal if we forget everything else we know about what's been going on in this country.
You don't like ads? I hear you, brother. You know how you can avoid ads for the Young Turks? Become a Young Turks member and get all the content ad-free. TYTnetwork.com/join.